Alright guys, welcome back. This is Bad Senator. This is my 2018 governor prediction. So as you can see here, each party has 7 governors that are not going to be running for re-election because they aren't facing re-election. Now, the states I have in blue and red already here are the states that I personally think are safe for the incumbent party. It's going to be very, very hard to make these races competitive due to either popularity, having high popularity, or having the state being a heavily blue state or a heavily red state, depending on what party their governor's in, or for a number of reasons. I think that these states are going to be relatively safe for the Republican Party, or the Democrat Party if they are blue. So as we can see, the Democrats already have a numerical disadvantage. 11 Democrats compared to 18 Republicans. So they're going to need to work pretty hard if they want to capture some of the seats shown here. So anyway, let's start in the northeastern corner of the United States in the state of Maine. Maine is home to the infamous Paul LePage, who was kind of like Trump before Trump came along. And he's kind of unpopular. I mean, I'll be honest, he's kind of the laughingstock of the nation right now. So, he's unpopular. And I think that because it's a pro-Democrat year, this race is favored to go to Maine. Or Maine is favored to go with the Democrats. So in this race, you're not really sure who's going to win each party's primary. And that will have a huge impact, obviously, on who is favored in the general election. But I think as of right now, Maine, it's a pro-Democrat year, and LePage is unpopular. So I think as of right now, Maine will be in the Democrats' column, or at least will favored to be there. New Hampshire. New Hampshire have Chris Sununu, the incumbent Republican governor, is favored to win re-election. He's a reasonably popular governor. He's a moderate Republican. And New Hampshire has a lot of moderate Republicans. In addition, you have Steve Marchand, the mayor of Portsmouth, running against him. I don't think he's a very good candidate. He doesn't have a whole lot of publicity, and he doesn't really have the ability to really fire up progressive Democrats like another Democrat would be, which is going to be key in 2018. Going over to Vermont, I think that Republicans will win there as well. You have incumbent Governor Phil Scott, and he's favored to win re-election. I actually think some progressives in the state will actually vote for him, and that's because he has a lot of progressives' policy positions. He supports marijuana rights. He supports restricting guns. He's criticized the mainstream Republican Party on a lot of his, the stuff they've been passing in the United States Senate. And if some progressives do actually vote for Phil Scott, like I think they will, then I think that they're actually going to be a death sentence to the Democrats. Because if you have progressives, the most liberal part of the population, voting for Phil Scott, a Republican, that's pretty much a death sentence for any Democrat trying to take him on. Rhode Island, I think, is going to go to the Democrats. And I think this because you have Democrat Gina Raimondo in there, in the governor's mansion. She's not the most popular governor, but she's more popular in her state than Donald Trump. And you don't really have a good Republican running against her. You have Alan Fung running against her, but Alan Fung actually lost against her back in 2014, believe it or not, and that was with a third-party candidate splitting up the vote. And why should he win now in an even more anti-Republican year? Going over to Connecticut, I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for this. This is my bold prediction, is that Connecticut will go to the Republicans. You have incumbent Democrat Governor Daniel Malloy, whose approval ratings are in the low 20s. Low 20s. That is almost unheard of. So, in Connecticut, you have Mark Bowden, who's probably going to end up winning the Republican nomination. And I think he's a very great candidate. He has won 9 mayoral elections as a Republican in Danbury, which is a city that voted for Clinton by 15% in 2016, sometimes by landslide victories in his mayor elections in Danbury. He's kind of like the Charlie Baker of Connecticut, and I think that he will be able to take down any of the Democrats put up because he is like the Charlie Baker of Democrats, or the Charlie Baker of Connecticut. Going down to Maryland, you have Larry Hogan. I think he is favored to win re-election as well. You have a similar situation to Vermont, a moderate to liberal Republican in a blue state that is very popular that progressives may actually vote for. It is unsure who the Democrats are going to put up, but I think Hogan can beat him or her, just like I think Scott can be a Democrat in Vermont. But in this state, a Democrat could win if he or she promises to clean up Baltimore, something Hogan has failed at. People fired up in Baltimore under the mindset of Hogan hasn't done anything for us, time for him to leave kind of mindset. They'll vote in large numbers for a Democrat, which would be a death sentence to Hogan in this deep blue state. Democrats, here's one for you. Pennsylvania, I think, will stay in Democrats' hands. Tom Wolf will hold on. It's going to be a very close race, but I think he's favored to win. It's a pro-Democrat year. His approval ratings are going up a little bit. And actually, a lot of Trump voters, I think, are actually kind of like turning around. And you'll see a pattern in the Midwest. You'll see a lot of Democrats holding on or picking up seats. And this is because you have a lot of Trump voters who are actually going to be turning around. This has been demonstrated in midterm elections in Wisconsin. So in Wisconsin, you had you had special elections where in districts that Trump won by 20 points, Democrats won. And in a district won by Trump by 40 points, you had a Democrat coming within 15 points of a Republican. So, I don't know, maybe this is just that Republican, like the Trump voters in the Midwest, cross parties just for Trump and won't do it for anyone else. Or maybe it's the fact that progressives are just voting in such huge numbers that Trump voters can't counter out them. Either way, it's a winning coalition for Tom Wolf in Pennsylvania. Now, a Republican can make this light red, or pink rather. If a Republican can make it pink, they'll have to really nail Tom Wolf for his high taxes, because that's the main beef people have with Tom Wolf, is that he's been raising taxes there. So if someone can really nail him for that, then they'll probably be favored to win. But no one has really done that as of right now. So I think Pennsylvania will stay in the Democrats' hands. Going left to Ohio, I think the Republicans are actually going to hold on there. Ohio's going to be kind of an outlier, I think, when it comes to this whole, Democrats are going to do well once again in the Midwest. I think this is the case in Ohio because you have, number one, Ohio voted for Trump by 8 points. Number two, John Kasich, who's the incoming governor there, is pretty popular. Like, he won his state in the Republican primary in Ohio, getting all 66 delegates. How do I remember that? I don't know. Anyway, Kasich is pretty popular there, and I think he can get some Republicans to vote, which can counteract this Democrat slide in a way. And I think that because Ohio is already kind of a Republican-leading state, I think when the dust settles, a Republican will emerge victorious in Ohio. Okay, Democrats, here's where you're going to make some pickups. You already made a pickup in Maine. I think you can do some pickups in Michigan as well. In Michigan, you have Rick Snyder, who is very unpopular. He is almost kind of responsible for the Flint water crisis, or at least not responsible for the Flint water crisis, but he was involved in kind of like making it seem like not a big deal. Like, there's no problem there, no problem in Flint, everything's fine in Flint. When in reality, the water had lead in it. And people are kind of unhappy with him. He's kind of like the Hillary Clinton, I guess, of Michigan. And I think that people in the eastern part of the state right here, in Flint and Detroit especially, will come out in very, very large numbers against Michigan, the Republicans in Michigan. Yes, I know that the polls right now show Republicans winning in Michigan, but I think they're really underestimating the wave of turnout that's about to occur in Flint and Detroit. And Flint and Detroit are obviously going to be very large amounts of Democrats coming out to vote. So I think the Democrat turnout in Flint and Michigan will be too high. In Detroit, it'll just be too high, and the pollsters won't be able to recognize it. And I think the Democrats will be able to catch an under the radar victory in Michigan. Wisconsin. A few months ago, I may have said the state would stay in Republican hands. It's not looking like that's the case now. I've mentioned earlier that the Republicans have lost some special elections out there, and it shows that Scott Walker isn't as popular, or at least doesn't have as much of his supporters actually going out and voting than I once thought he did. I think that the Democrats will have a very good chance of taking the seat. They almost did in 2014, and I think they're actually going to succeed doing it in 2018. Wait, hold on. Yes, so yeah, it shows that the base in Michigan is very enthusiastic, and shows there's a general disdain for Scott Walker across the state of Wisconsin, and I think the Democrat base will once again, like they did in those special elections, rise up against Scott Walker and put a Democrat in office. Illinois. Well, let me just check my OBS real quick, make sure it's doing its job, hasn't frozen up on me. Yep, indeed it did. Illinois should be a pretty easy pickup for the Democrats. Illinois is a liberal state. There's no denying that. You have heavily liberal bases in Chicago and East St. Louis, and you have incumbent Bruce Bronner, who's much too conservative for people not to vote against him in Chicago and East St. Louis. And these two areas are actually enough alone to give the state to a Democrat. Additionally, Bronner isn't even that popular. He's kind of unpopular. And with an potential energized Democratic base in central Illinois, I think this is an easy pickup. Let's go to the South. In Georgia, you have who's his face? Nathan Deal. You have Nathan Deal, who is running in Georgia. Not running in Georgia, retiring in Georgia. And you have the GOP, which is favored there. It looks like Casey Kegel is going to win the GOP primary. The Democrat primary is more uncertain. It's the battle of the states, the battle of progressive versus more moderate, kind of traditional Southern Democrat. I think with a fractured Democrat base in a red state coming off rather popular former Governor Nathan Deal, will lead Republicans to being favored in the state. Going on to Florida, I think that Florida will also remain in Republican hands. You have Rick Scott being incoming governor there, who is contemplating a Senate run. And if Rick Scott runs for Senate, it's going to become a total toss-up. But anyway, about Florida. You have a similar situation to Maine. It is unclear who will win each of the parties' primary, and that will play a major role in which party is favored to win. However, you do have one person who's in the lead. You have Adam Putnam in the lead in the GOP primary, and if he wins, he's probably going to win, because more polls than not show him winning against Democrat Party candidates. So I think that he and the GOP is favored to win there. I personally don't think there's going to be a Latino surge down there either. That will secure a victory for the Democrats, because Florida Latinos have different voting patterns than the southern, like the Latinos in the southwestern United States. Like, people down here in southern Florida, they vote differently than the Latinos in, like, the Sun Belt over here. And there are actually a lot of Latino Republicans, like Marco Rubio, that could really counteract a Democratic surge of Latinos. So, yeah, if Marco Rubio really campaigns down in South Florida to get some Latinos to really, like, think, oh, the Republicans are on our side, and not, like, to counteract the message from the Democrats, like, oh, Republicans are not on your side, I think that when the dust settles, Florida will be in the Republican column. Iowa, this is the one that's put the Republicans over the top. Iowa will remain Republican. In Iowa, you have Kim Reynolds, the incumbent Republican, and she is reasonably popular. She is new. She's new. She was just joined the governor's mansion in 2017. Her approvals are high, and she's leading all potential Democrat challenges to her governorship by large margins, according to some polls, like leading by 13 points against Kathy Grayson. The state has also become more of a red state after voting for Trump by more than 12 points. So I think Iowa, it's becoming too much of a red state for it to really go blue. Minnesota, Democrats favorite up there. Mark Dayton is the incumbent governor. Mark Dayton, I think he really gets some people to vote. Like really, really get extra turnout from the Democrats. And I think that because of that, he will be able to win there. And yeah. In Kansas, you have Democrats favored to win. Is there? Okay, that seems like a shocker, but hear me out here. In Kansas, you have an open seat left by Samuel Brownback being term limited, and Samuel Brownback is the Daniel Malloy of the Republicans. So with no Senate election this year, the Republican base isn't exactly energized in Kansas. Now, what little vote is left by the Republicans will be split by Greg Orman, an independent running with a history of getting large percentages of the vote in state elections, like he got more than 40% of the vote in the Kansas 2014 Senate election. It will get split just enough to allow a Democrat with his energized base to win and be favored to win this deep red state. That's this state in Connecticut. Kansas and Connecticut are my two boldest predictions of this election cycle. Let's go to Colorado. Colorado favorites go blue as well. John Hickenlooper, whose popularity is going up, is term limited, but I think he can campaign and really get Democrats out to the polls. I think if there's a blue wave, it may hit his state particularly hard due to all of the progressive things he has done, like legalizing marijuana. Finally, the state has been trending blue since 2008. It even voted for Clinton last year, despite many conservatives and working class in the state's rural regions. There haven't been any polls as of yet for this race, however, so this rating may change. In New Mexico, Democrats' favorites make a pick up there as well. Incumbent Republican Susana Martinez, who was once seen as, oh, what a great governor, the rising star of the Republican Party, yeah, she's kind of unpopular. Crime is up in her state. This state has been trending blue since 2008, like Colorado. It looks like Steve Pearce is going to run as a Republican nominee who is not a good candidate. He has history of losing statewide and has a plagiarism scandal under his belt. And then you have Michelle Grisham for the Democrats, who I think is a good candidate. Her political ideology matches that of the state pretty well, kind of center-left. She's the chair of the Hispanic caucus right now in the House, so she can really motivate a large number of Latinos to vote for her. And in New Mexico, a state so close to Latin America, that it's going to be, as Donald Trump can only say, huge in that state. And then you have a poll showing a race between these two as Grisham up by 4, the Democrat. So, yeah, I think that this is Democrat territory. You have Democrats making pickups in New Mexico, Kansas, Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan, and Maine. You have Republicans making pickups in Connecticut. Got 3 more states to do. I think Arizona will go to the Republicans. Now, incumbent Governor Doug Ducey has an approval rating in the mid-30s right now, which is not good. But he has done some stuff to make conservatives happy, and I think that the conservatives in this state will vote for him, and that's a lot of conservatives. Because you have really old people, like a lot of Republicans in the state, a lot of old people in the state, and these old people are probably going to vote Republican until they die. I mean, that sounds really bad, but it's true. They love the Republicans, the old people down in Arizona. You have Democrat David Garcia, who will likely be opposing him this year, and he doesn't seem to have a really good campaign at this point. Ducey is beating him in fundraising, and Garcia hasn't really made his policy positions clear yet. Not to mention the fact that Arizona, while becoming a swing state, does still lean Republican. The only way David Garcia can really win is if he really energizes the Latino base near the Mexican border and in the mountain regions. And Native Americans, too. They're a pretty big part of the vote there. If you can motivate those two groups to really go out, then you could see David Garcia win, but Right now, it's unlikely. Nevada will also go to the Republicans, and I think that will go to the Republicans because you have incumbent Republican Governor Brian Sandoval, who is pretty popular. Like, his approval ratings are in the high 60s. And then you have, oh man, who's his face? Adam Laxalt, yeah. Adam Laxalt will likely be running for the Republicans, but his history of running and winning statewide. Additionally, all 5 polls taken in the state show that he has a lead over various potential Democrat challengers. However, this race will be very, very close. Nevada has a history of partisan voting, meaning it typically votes for candidates of the same party for every statewide office in a given year. So with Jackie Rosen favored to win the Senate race, it could cause a boost for whoever the Dems put up this year for the governorship as well. The state is trending blue as well, and Democrats, who usually turn out big here, may turn out in huge numbers. This race in Connecticut are the 2 biggest toss-ups on this map, and Kansas too. Like any Southwest Sunbelt state, getting Latinos to turn out big is key, and the Democrats could flip this seat if they put up someone who can do that. One of the reasons Nevada's been voting blue recently is because of Clark County. Clark County down there, Democrats can get a machine going where they can really, really hard and fast get Latinos and minorities in Clark County who work for unions coming out in huge, huge numbers. That's why Democrats win in Nevada. If you can eliminate that, and I think Sandoval, like these same unions elected Sandoval, because Sandoval's a Republican and the unions, he had the support of the unions down there. Or at least some of them. So Sandoval will have support of the unions, and when Sandoval endorses inevitably the Republican candidate, the unions are going to be like, oh, hey, look, this guy isn't that bad. And then the unions are going to support the Republican, most likely. And then you have that machine kind of slowed down. And I think that with the popularity of the Republican governor there and the polls showing Republicans in the lead, that will cause Nevadans to elect another Republican to their governor's mansion. Alaska, finally. Alaska will flip from independent to Republican. The GOP will pick up the seat from Walker. Walker's approval ratings have plummeted this year, and with Republicans having big popularity up there, I think this race will go to them. It is unclear who will win each party's nomination. This is more of a general outlook. This race ratings will probably change as the year progresses. So that's my governor prediction. You have 21 Democrats to 29 Republicans. You have Republicans picking up Connecticut and Alaska, and the Democrats picking up Kansas, New Mexico, Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Maine. Comment down below if you agree or disagree with any of my predictions, and I'll see you guys in the next video, probably tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Bye!